You know, waking up in the morning, getting a cup of coffee, and getting out the door, that seems like chore enough. But if you're like me, you feel like you've shortchanged the day if you don't have a good breakfast. What I'd like to do today is show you a bunch of different ideas that you can put together fairly quickly and really launch your day with a great breakfast. So take a look. As an example, I'm going to show you how to make a breakfast muffin, and once you know the technique, there's a lot of variations on the theme that you can execute. And then over here, a breakfast cereal that is a nutritional powerhouse, and it doesn't have to take a long time. With some leftover grains that are cooked one day, you can make a fried rice for breakfast the next that has ham and eggs and mushrooms. And then here, breakfast doesn't have to be that complicated. It can be a little deli meat, some tomatoes. In fact, let me show you. I've got a plate here, and I'm going to put on it some tomatoes. It's the summer right now, so we've got tomatoes aplenty. I'm going to put what I think of as flavor bombs, things that I like to have in my pantry all the time to lend flavor to a dish like this. So I've got olives and pepperoncini. I'm going to put those on the plate as well, maybe a few more tomatoes. And then, left over from last night's salad, a little bit of arugula. And it doesn't have to be fancy cheeses like Fontina or Manchego. It can be something as humble and as simple as cottage cheese. So, a dollop of cottage cheese right on the arugula. And what really makes this special for me is reaching for a really good olive oil. Again, a flavor bomb, if you will. And I'm going to dress this whole plate with a really good olive oil. Some pepper. Maybe just a few grains of salt. And with a piece of toast, this is a great breakfast. The thing I love about it is that it's all savory. Sometimes when I eat sweet things for breakfast, it sort of launches my day with this idea that I have to eat more sweet things and more sweet things, and I don't think that's really very good for you. A breakfast like this might be something you would see outside the country. I had something very similar in Turkey. Now let me show you something that I also saw there that I absolutely adore. I think it's a great trick. This is tahini, sesame paste. And you probably have in the back of your refrigerator a jar of tahini that you bought a year or more ago to make hummus or baba ganoush or something like that, and you're wondering what to do with the rest. So, a thin film of tahini on a tray. This is honey mixed with pomegranate molasses. Now, in Turkey, they have a product called pekmez, which is grape must that's reduced down to a syrup, grape molasses, basically. But it's hard to find outside of Mediterranean groceries. So honey, pomegranate molasses, until you get this really nice sweet sour flavor, is entirely appropriate and a great substitute. I'm going to take and drizzle some of this right on top. And then just drag a knife through it. It's really very, very attractive. And what they would do with this is take a piece of bread and get some of each. And I'll tell you what it tastes like. This tastes like peanut butter and jelly with a Turkish passport. It's a great idea for a breakfast. So, all of this is what we have in store for us. I'm going to start by helping you learn how to make muffins. Probably sounds familiar. You get up, you grab a cup of coffee, and you're out the door. But from a chef's perspective, breakfast is important. So, there's a lot of things that we can do, great strategies that we can put to work to make sure that you have a good meal first thing in the morning. But let's say that you like something sweet for breakfast in the morning. Let me show you a great recipe for making muffins. I've got all these ingredients laid out. I call this the breakfast muffin. Now, here I've got some dry ingredients. This is whole wheat flour, And I'm going to use a little bit of white flour mixed in as well. Whole wheat flour gives you the fiber, gives you the nutrition. I've had really good luck adding whole wheat flour made from spelt and use 100% of that. But I'm using here whole wheat and white flour. I've got salt, I've got baking soda, and I've got baking powder. I'm going to mix all of those dry ingredients together, and then finally here is some sugar. Now, once the dry ingredients are mixed, and watch out for little lumps of brown sugar, once the dry ingredients are mixed, we can move on to wet ingredients. And they include some egg. I've got 3 eggs right here. I'm going to also add some buttermilk. Now, whenever you see baking soda in a recipe, you should expect that there's going to be some sort of acid, and this is the acid, buttermilk. It takes a little bit of acid for baking soda to react and give off carbon dioxide, and that's the leavening that takes place. I'm going to add some melted butter as well. A little bit of oil. This is just salad oil. Could be light olive oil if you're a big fan. And then finally, some vanilla. All right, so we have dry ingredients, we have moist ingredients or wet ingredients. And I want to put an idea in your head. These muffins would taste great just the way they are, but just the same way when you make chocolate chip cookies, you feel empowered to put in nuts or granola or more chocolate chips. You can bring add-ins to this recipe, and I'll show you what I've got in mind today. I'm going to make a version that uses blueberries, that uses a little bit of nutmeg, and that uses lemon zest. So these are going to be lemon, blueberry, nutmeg muffins. There's nutmeg. Here comes lemon zest. And we're going to add the 2 mixtures together. Now, at this point, I'm going to suggest that you be a little bit careful not to overmix this batter. So get rid of the whip and instead pick up a spatula. The more you mix it, the more the gluten or protein will develop and the tougher your muffins will become. When they're almost completely mixed, in goes the blueberries. And we're just about ready to shape these. Now, if you like the idea of a savory muffin, there's no reason you couldn't leave out a little bit of the sugar and add corn and green chilies as an example. And nuts can go in here, or I've got some cooked grains. So how about we put in just a few cooked grains? And now we've got the benefit of whole grains. I think that was barley and wheat berries and brown rice. And we're good to go. Here is a muffin pan. This just means you don't have to wash this pan later on, which is a nice idea. And off we go. If you find that you don't have quite enough batter, no problem, that goes away. And this goes into the oven at about 400 degrees, and they'll cook pretty quickly, 10 to 15 minutes. There they are. The muffins are out of the oven. They're all cool. As you can see, I made a double batch, and I would recommend that. There's always room in the freezer for a little bit of muffinage to have on hand so that you can head out the door with something tasty and nutritious. Let's put these up here. I made a couple of variations on the theme. One of them had walnuts and cherries, and another had pistachios and apricots, and then of course the blueberry muffins that I made a little bit earlier. Take a look right here. I've got this muffin. It's just out of the oven within the last 15 minutes or so. And let's have a look. Looks pretty nice. Nice and tender, plenty of fruit, plenty of fiber, delicious. So, muffins in the freezer. Let's move on to a cereal. You know, a lot of people like breakfast cereal in the morning, and they reach for a box of cereal because they think it's easy, all the while wondering whether it's the best choice. Whole grains might be a better choice, but they take so long. Let me show you how a chef would handle it. I've got some whole grain cereal that's cooking right here, right now. You might think of oatmeal as your favorite whole grain cereal, but this is actually a 10-grain cereal. It's been cooking now for about 10 minutes. But if I had taken this and soaked it overnight, the following morning it would cook in about 3 minutes. It's just about done now. I'm going to take some fruit, some dried fruit, and add it right in there and allow it to rehydrate right along with the cooking grains. All right. I'm setting that aside for just a second. While we're talking about grains, there's nothing to be intimidated about. If you take a look here, I've got a whole selection of grains, and if you can boil water, you can cook these grains. I've got brown rice. I've got the 10-grain cereal that's cooking here. Rolled oats. I've got barley. I've got farro, which is an ancient form of wheat that cooks in about 45 minutes. As an example, each of these grains, like brown rice, has a specific amount of water that you want to add. Brown rice is about 2.5 parts water to 1 part of grains. But if it's going to take 45 minutes, then it probably makes sense that you cook a little bit extra and then you put it into a container like this so that you've got it on hand for subsequent meals. As an example, I could put some of this brown rice right into this cereal without any difficulty. So there's brown rice. Here's a little bit of this cereal from yesterday. It's an easy thing to take it out, put it into a pan with a little bit of water, smooth it out, and in 2 minutes, you've got breakfast cereal on the table. Here, a little bit of barley, and barley could go in there just as readily. I'm going to take these and set them aside. We'll use them later. On the top of our cereal, I like to add a lot. I like the dried fruit, certainly. I've got a nice selection of fresh fruit right here. I'm going to put some nuts in there. But I also like the idea of giving it a tremendous boost of nutty flavor by toasting some sesame seeds. And so I've got some sesame seeds right here. And it's this flavor that will make the difference, that will convince somebody that this is a great thing for them to do for breakfast. All right, hot saute pan with a little bit of sesame. And if the pan is hot, very, very quickly, you're going to see them start to pop, almost like popcorn, huh? So keep them moving. The pan is hot, keep them moving. You can toss them, you can stir them around with a spoon. Already I'm starting to get the aroma. So I look for the popping. I look for a little change in color. I look for a really nutty aroma. And then right towards the end, a little bit of smoke will come out of the pan. And when you get that far, it's time for these to come out of the hot pan. I'm going to grind these up, and I'll put them right into a spice grinder. Sometimes I add flaxseed to my cereals in the morning. I think of flaxseed as a nutritional powerhouse. It's loaded with great fiber, but it has the omega-3 oils that are so good for your heart. And because of that, I choose not to cook them. I think I want to